Hi everyone. So the backend of our application is done. Now it's time to create the front end. So the first thing I want to show you is the current state of our application. So let me open the browser, and I've opened both the demo project on port 8001 and on 8000 we are running our development project. So we will go step by step and we will change according to the demo app. In our demo application, on the login page, you can see that we have a button for create an account, which takes us to the register page. So the first thing we need to do is add this button, because there is no way to navigate to the register page from our application. So first, let's get this done. So let's go into our code, and I'm going to open up the file login.blade.php. Here we have an X button, which is a component which is already created by Laravel Breeze for us. And inside we can see that this button is of type submit. So I'm just going to keep it here. I'm not going to change anything inside this file, but I'm just going to duplicate it, rename it to link.blade.php. And inside I'm going to replace the button with an anchor tag. And I'm also going to get rid of this type submit. And that's it. Now inside the login file, I'm going to use the button which we have just created. So X link, and the href is route, and the name is register. And the text for this button is create an account. It's saved. Let's go to the browser, and it is quite messed up. So what we need to do is move this button out of this div. And now you can see that there is a button below, just like our demo application. We just need to add some classes to it. So let's do that. Let me go to the code and add some classes. So the first one I'm going to add is width full. So it is going to take the whole place. I'm going to add margin Y2. It is going to add some spaces at the top and the bottom of the button. And I'm also going to give it a class of justify content center. And that didn't work. Oh, actually it's justify center, because I'm quite used to Bootstrap, so I forgot the class name. Alright, so we have the same button as our demo application. The only difference is that the spacing between the character is a bit higher than the demo application, but it is fine. Alright, so we are making some progress, a little one, but still some progress. So the next thing we are going to do is modify our layout file. And why I'm going to do that? So for that, let me just log in. I've created an account. The first thing we need to work on is the navigation, and the second thing is we have to get rid of this header, which is completely useless for us. Our design will be like this one. So first, let's get rid of this header. Let me go to the code, app layout, and I need to get rid of this header tag. So let's remove that, hit save. So that header bar is gone now. Next thing, we are going to work on the navigation bar first, and then we are going to work on our layout, because our design is something like this. So let's take it step by step. First, let's work on the navigation bar. So for the navigation bar, we just need to add this one link inside our navigation. So when I click on this drop down, there should be a link to profile, and when we go into mobile view, we see a hamburger menu which also has this profile link. So we need to add these two. Let's go into our code and into the navigation file. So the first thing I'm going to do is add the link for bigger screen. So I'm just going to use the component that comes out of the box with the Laravel Breeze, that is X drop down, and I think link. Yeah. So the text is going to be profile, and we need to pass in href, which is route, and the name of our route is profile, and we need to pass in the ID of the user. Since we are going to our own profile, it is always going to be auth ID, and that's it. So on the bigger screen, we have the button to go to the profile. Right now it doesn't exist because we haven't created this view. So now if I go to the smaller screen, we just need to add that profile button here as well. So right here, we need to add another responsive nav link. Actually, we can just copy this one and paste it here. And the text is going to be profile. The route is also profile and auth ID. Also for the active class, we need to check if the route is profile, which is the name of the route. So now on our smaller screen, we can see the profile button as well. Okay, that's it for the navigation bar. Our layout is actually done. What I have just added is this footer. So inside the app blade, I just created this footer, which is optional and you can skip it. So let's go to our demo application and see the design of our dashboard page. So now on our dashboard, you can see we have 3 different tiles or 3 different sections. The first section at the top is for filtering the blog posts. So we add a keyword, hit the search button, and then the result will be according to that keyword. And right below this filter section, we have our blog posts, which will be multiple. At the moment, there is only one. And on the right, we have a section for just showing how many blog posts that has been created by this authenticated user. And there is a button to create a new blog post. So that's our design. So let's go to our code, open up the dashboard file, and inside, I'm just going to get rid of everything except the layout, and I'm just going to create an empty div. I'm going to give it a class of padding Y, so the top and bottom padding, and also flex, so the display will be flex. So now if I go back to the demo application, and if we observe that there are actually 2 sections, this one, the filter section, and the blog post, which is taking up to 3/4 of the screen, and then there is a side section which takes almost 1/4 of the screen. And also on the smaller screen, we are going to hide this side section. So let's do this. What I'm going to do inside is create another div. I'm going to give it a class of width full, doubly full for expanding to the full width. And on larger screen, I want it to be taking the width of 3/4. And also we are going to add the padding, so it will look better. So that's for the left part. And now the side section. Let's create another div, give it a class of hidden for smaller screen, and I want to show this only on the larger screens. So let's add LG block and give it a width of 1/4 and also padding of 4. So we have just created that layout. Right now we can't see anything because we haven't added. So if I add anything, example like, so now we can see that it is taking almost 3/4 of the space, and the right one is taking only 1/4. And also on smaller screen, the side section is gone. So that's good. So now let's go back to our code, remove these example dummy words, and actually create our layout. First, let's create the bigger part of the screen, and then we will move on to the smaller part. So inside this div, what we need is a filter section and blog post. So first, let's create this filter section. Let's go back to the code. So I'm going to add another div, give it a class of background white. I'm also going to add overflow hidden, and we need to add shadow small. And on smaller screen, I want the rounded to be large, so more rounded or border radius on the smaller screen. I'm also going to add margin bottom of 5. Inside this div, I'm going to add a form. The action is going to be route dashboard, because we don't want our user to redirect to another page. We just want the same page to be loaded with the filtered blog post. I'm also going to add some classes to our form element. The first one is P6, padding 6. Next one is BG wide. The background should be white, and the text should be XL. The padding bottom should be 5. The display type is going to be block, and on larger screen I want it to be flex. Also align center and justify between. So these are just Tailwind classes which I've just added in here. And inside, let's create an input tag of type text. The name is keyword because we have specified it in the backend, and the value is going to be request and get. Let me close this one. And the key name is keyword. What I'm going to do is split into multiple lines so it's easier to read. And let's add some classes to this input field. So the first one is going to be width full. On large, I want it to take the width of 5 by 6. The border radius should be XL. And the text color is going to be pink. So the placeholder is going to be search a blog post. And that is pretty much it. Let's save. And we can see our input field. We just need to add our button now. So right below this input, let's add X button, which is our button of type submit with the default classes of Tailwind already added to it. And the text is going to be filter search. Alright, so that's it. But the problem is, if we go to the smaller screen, this is not how we want it to be. In the demo application, if I go smaller screen, you can see there is some space between the input field and the button, and the button is also taking the full space. So let's do that. So for that, I need to override some classes here. So on smaller screen, I want it to be width full. I also want to add some margin at the top. The text should be center. I don't think this is going to work. It is going to be justify center. And on medium, I want it to take up to 1/3 of the width. And also on medium screen, I want the margin left to be auto. On larger screen, the margin top should be 0 because we don't want any space above the button on larger screen. And also on large, we want the width to be auto. So that should be pretty much it. And now we can see a centered aligned button right below our input field for smaller screen. And on the bigger screen, it looks good. Alright, so we are done with the filter part. Now let's work on our blog posts, and then we will move to the site section. So let's quickly go into our demo application, and we can see that each blog post has the image on the left and then the text on the right. So it's more like 1/4 of the space for the image and 3/4 of the space for this text area. So let's go into our code, and I also missed this HR which I have just added, and below this div inside our width of 3/4, I'm going to create another div, and I'm also going to append some classes to it. So the first one is background white, obviously. And I'm also going to add some margin to the top and the bottom so that there is some space between each blog post. The overflow is also going to be hidden. The shadow is going to be small. It's up to you if you want to change it, but I'm fine with this. And on smaller screen, I want the border radius to be large. Also, when I am hovering over each blog post, I want the shadow to be bigger, so shadow large. And this should do, but the problem will be that the smoothness won't be there like this one. You can see there is small smooth animation going on. or transition. So let's add that as well. So I'm going to say ease in out, and the duration for this animation is 300 millisecond. I think that will be fine. The cursor should be pointer, and on larger screen I want it to be flex and align center. The reason why I'm doing it flex on large screen is because if we go to the demo app and go to smaller screen, you can see the image is taking the whole space and then the text is right below it. So we are not using the same layout as the bigger screen. This one, small space for image and then text. So that's why I have just added this for the larger screen. So inside here, the first thing is an image. Now inside this div, I'm just going to add image tag, and actually I have downloaded and added a dummy PNG inside our public folder. We are going to use asset and blogs dummy PNG, right? Okay, so right now we can see this. It's good, but it is not what we need. So let's modify it. We need to add some classes. So let me go to the next line, and I'm going to add some classes to it. So the first one is width full on smaller screen, and the max height to be 52, because if the images uploaded are not of the same height, our layout will be disturbed. And on larger screen, I want the width to be 1/4, and the image should also be contained. And let's add background gray if we have a transparent background of the image. Hit save, go back to the browser, and you can see this. If I go to the smaller screen, it is taking the whole space. So our image is there. The next thing is we need to work on the text area. By text area, I mean this title, created by, and the description. So let's do that. Let's go back to the code. This image tag, I want to create another div. So it is going to take the class of width full for smaller screen, and on larger screen I want the width to be 3/4 and add some padding to it, and that's pretty much it. So inside we are going to add an h3 tag, which is just going to be block title, and we are going to append some classes to it. So the first one is going to be text 2xl. You can add any heading tag and change the font size using the Tailwind classes. So I'm just going to use text 2xl, and font should be bold. Let's go back, and it looks good. Next, let's add a paragraph for the created by, and it is going to be created by, and we need to append some classes to the paragraph tag. The first one is padding 3, and the text color should be gray 500. Next, we need to add an anchor tag here, so it will redirect us to that user profile. So let's add John Doe for now, and the href is just going to take in the route for profile. And for now, let's use our authenticated user ID because we are just testing things. So go back, and you can see that we need to style our link though. So let's add classes to our anchor tag as well. The first class is going to be text blue, actually 800, and I want this to be underlined. And when I hover over the text, I want it to be like light blue. That's it. Let's go back to the browser, and we can see this. Okay, the only thing that is missing now is this description and the button, of course. So let's add them as well. Below our paragraph, I'm going to add another paragraph which is just going to contain our dummy text. Okay, I've just split it over to multiple lines. Now if we go back, you can see that our text is there as well. And we will restrict this text to 275 characters per post maximum. So we don't want to show the whole description on the dashboard. But we will do that later when we are using the actual data instead of this dummy data. So the last thing we need to do is add this button, which is view full blog. So we did create a component for this. So let's use it, xlink, and the text is going to be view full blog. Also, we need to define the href, route, and blog.show, and some ID. And that's it. Hit save. And now you can see that we have just accomplished this blog post style as well. Alright, so the next thing is this side section, this one. So let's work on this now. Let's go back to our code and we need to work into this div now. So inside, I'm just going to create another div and add some classes to it. Of course, the first one is going to be background white, the overflow is going to be hidden, and the shadow is going to be small, and on smaller screen, more border radius. Inside now, we first need to add this blog created text, the count, a line break, and this button. So let's do this. So I'm going to create another div, just going to give it a class of font bold and the text. So blogs created. Underneath it, another div with a class of text blue and 700. Also, I want it to be a little bit large, so 2XL is good. Let's add 10 here for now. Or actually, we can use our relation auth user blogs and count. So it is just going to show how many blogs have been created by this authenticated user. Right below it, we have an HR tag. And the last thing is a button. So we are going to use our xlink component, and the text is create a new blog post. We also need to add the href, so that is route blogs.create, and I think that's it. Let's go back. Okay, we forgot to add the padding. So actually we need to add padding around these. Let's try here. Okay, the next thing is this href also needs to have some classes. So margin y and 3. Alright, we have created our dashboard, and the next page we are going to work on is our profile page. So let's do that.